What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. In today's video, we are back with another episode of Lions Latest. We'll go through the latest Detroit Lions news. Day number 8 of Lions training camp is in the books. The longest practice yet. They pushed the time today. It was intense. They got back after it after kind of a day off there on Wednesday. So let's get it started.
Fired up. It's made a great decision.
Great teammates, coaches, and other people who want to be Super Bowl champions, and we are. We're going to do it this year.
And we're going places, because we want to go places.
Touchdown, Detroit Lions!
Before long, we're going to be the last one standing.
Welcome everybody to another video. Glad you guys are here, and we are back with another episode of Lions Latest to go through some of these training camp notes. Yesterday, as we know, they did not have pads on. It was a shortened practice. It was just basically walkthroughs the entire time. So I decided, you know what, let's just do a live show on this because I really don't have a lot of notes from that day of specific practice. But today was the complete opposite. The Lions pushed it to the limit, man. Literally, they went all the way to the end of the time. And I've actually read that's the reason they cut their final drill short. That's what Pride of Detroit said, because there was, and I think this is the drill they're talking about, there was about 4 seconds left going through a situational drill, and it just ended. I was like, why did they run another play? So I'm pretty sure that's the drill that they're talking about that just ended. And then at that point, you saw Blau go off to the side and do some reps, after that ended. But they had to shut it down, it sounds like, because of how close they were actually getting to that time. They went way longer than we've seen up to this point. They went to like 11, and they usually start at like 8:30. So long day of practice. The intensity was there once again. We had a couple of mini scuffles once again. St. Brown was involved in one of those once again. But with that being said, there are a lot of takeaways. Now, I did miss some of the one-on-ones, some of the early, one-on-one drills that they did do in the first 30 minutes, 45 minutes. But with that being said, once they got into 11 on 11, 7 on 7s, I got a lot of notes to take away from that. A lot of things. Some guys that continue to flash, some new guys that really stuck out to me, some guys that are continuing to kind of turn my head and be like, okay, maybe we should be paying a little bit of attention to this guy because his reps are getting higher. He's playing with a higher, team on the depth chart, and now he's flashing consistently. Also, I think the backup quarterback battle, I think one guy clearly had the better day today, and to me, that was David Blau. I felt like for the most part, Boyle has struggled to really find a rhythm. I thought David Blau found a little bit of a rhythm today. I don't think it's still a huge gap, but I think he found a little bit of a rhythm, and I think he had probably the better day with that unit as he was working with the second team today. So that's an ongoing battle to watch, along with a ton of other battles. So we're going to just dive into the notes that I have. We'll see how out of order this is, probably because it probably will be, but with that being said, it's Lions football, so you can't really go wrong with it. Let's start off with some of the injury updates that we have from Detroit Lions training camp to this point. We'll throw up the PUP list and the NFI list. Once again, no changes at the top of that list with Pascal Kabinda, Jerry Jacobs, and Romeo Okwara. We did talk a little bit about Romeo Okwara yesterday and how he had his presser and he's running, taking mental reps, doing things like that, but we don't have an exact timeline on when he's going to be back.
I mean, I've never really faced a challenge like this it's in sports, so I think just mentally getting over that hurdle and coming back from an injury like this is really important. It teaches you a lot about yourself because you see guys do it all the time, and I've always admired guys who come back from injuries, and so just being able to go through this myself and go through that process, I'm just gotta stay in the process, stay in it, and just kind of feel this myself.
With the NFI list, Jamison Williams, CJ Moore continue to be the same. Now, stop it right there because Quintez Cephas is not included on the NFI list. I want to make that clear. But Quintez Cephas, we know, went down with an injury a couple of days ago. With that being said, they were optimistic about it once they got the image back of the injury of Quintez Cephas. And today he was out there, but he was not in pads. So I would say that's probably a good sign, I would say. But we'll just have to see where it goes from here. James Mitchell started to actually get ramped up today as he did his first 11 on 11 work, and he did have a touchdown today. Ali McNeil, who said he's good. Let me act like that was not on there. We're just going to cut that out. Okay, put Levi on here now because Levi has missed the last few days, and the Detroit Lions, Dan Campbell, said that they were being smart with him and TJ Hawkinson as he was banged up. And once again today, I didn't see him. I was looking for him, but I did not see Levi. So if he was there, I just missed it, but I did not see Levi at practice, but I was looking for Levi. In the meantime, we have seen a lot of Michael Brockers on 4 down linemen. It's usually Hutchinson, Brockers, Ali McNeil, that's the guy's name, and Charles Harris usually hold it down in those situations, and they mix in guys like Jayshon Cornell is mixing in a little bit. You're also seeing, slightly like a John Kaminsky. But with that being said, Haven't seen Levi in a little bit. And Ryan McCollum continues to be out for the last couple of days, who is the Lions' third string center right now. I did try to see if I could find Evan Brown taking reps at guard. I didn't see it, but maybe he did. I just did not see him taking reps at backup guard. Now, we have noticed some movements for sure. I saw Bina Eze today getting some reps at right tackle. We've seen guys like Kevin Jarvis taking some reps at right tackle. We've seen movement for sure along the offensive line. One note that I did make is that Logan Stenberg, today at least, in terms of team drills, was above Tommy Kramer from the notes that I had in terms of when he was getting out there. So that's a battle to keep an eye on, the backup guard position, because we can expect Lions are probably at least going to keep one, and it could be Logan Stenberg, but remember the injury last year, it ended up being Tommy Kramer eventually, the UDFA out of Notre Dame. Start off with some of the individual drills that I noticed. We'll go through a few of those. We'll end group drills kind of at the beginning of practice. Just a couple that stuck out to me. First one, they had like a running back flat drill where it was a quarterback rolling out, and it was almost kind of like a little bit of a breakdown situation. Like he had an original route, looked for the ball, and then he broke up field and then cut back outside to make himself a target for the quarterback. This was with no defense. I don't believe it was. It was against air, I think, but it was a little drill that they mixed in there for quarterbacks when they're rolling out. I think part of this probably has to do with the fact that they've been mixing in a lot of rollout plays, but at the same time, when a play does break down, a quarterback's outside the pocket, becoming a good target for the quarterbacks. They were doing like an over-the-shoulder pass drill. The coaches would throw it like straight up in the air. I think Antoine Randall L threw a lot of them. They'd throw it like straight up in the air, kind of like 15, 20 yards, and they have to run under it and try to make this over-the-shoulder grab. I just thought Khalif Raymond, had a little show-off there, second at like the final rep, as the ball was so high, he actually did like a little fair catch motion and then caught it. I was like, all right, I see what you did there, Khalif. This is what he does. He catches passes like this all the time. So, nothing new to Khalif Raymond. He had to show off a little bit, give him the fair catch. Josh Johnson also had a nice grab in this drill as well. I noticed him. He had a nice one because his was on the sideline, and it's like ridiculously high. Like I doubt the ball is going to be that high, so they really over-exaggerated it, and they're not like running full speed. But he had a nice over-the-shoulder toe tap grab on the sideline going through these drills. So I thought that was pretty cool. Also, first initial impression of Maurice Alexander was a drop in this drill. With that said, though, he did make a couple plays today, but that's I just had to throw it out there because, like, who is 15? I think it used to be Sutton, and I was like, this is not Sutton. I know Sutton's not here. Turns out it was Maurice Alexander. So he was already out there, the receiver from the USFL that we signed yesterday. We talked about that a little bit yesterday. The big-time kick returner, the former quarterback that transitioned. Not a ton of college production at FIU. There was also refs at practice. Now, for me, it didn't really benefit me a ton because a lot of times when I threw a flag, I didn't know who the flag was on. I was like, okay, I don't know who actually did something. There was one I know who did, but the rest of them, I really didn't know who the flag was being called on. But I do like when they bring out the refs. That way you can get some calls in terms of, PI, things like that. And I would assume there was probably a couple because I guess they did one-on-one wide receiver DB drill, but I didn't see the wide receiver one-on-one DB drill. I saw when they went two receivers and they did some, like stack formations. They did some bunches with 3-on-3. I saw some of that, but I didn't see the one-on-ones. When they went to this multiple receiver drill, which is as simple as it sounds, it was always man coverage, and it would be like 2-on-2, so two receivers versus two cornerbacks. Sometimes it'd be a bunch formation. That's basically what it was. It wasn't one-on-ones. There was a couple of receivers and a couple of defensive backs. It was always man coverage. There was no help either. The offense pretty much for the most part won this drill. At least for the most part, they usually had a completion, but I think a big part of it for the defense was trying to make sure that they had clean communication. Of course, if you can make a play on the football, great, but try to limit some of the overtop plays. Don't let someone break wide open, because this is something that Aaron Glenn actually brought up, and I'm sure this is a drill that he wanted to implement, because you're getting all these condensed sets, condensed looks. Teams are stacking receivers, running all these bunches and things like that, which makes it really tough to get up, press, and jam you off the line of scrimmage, because you can't have everybody on the same level. You're just going to run into each other. They're going to cross, and you're going to be in a terrible spot defensively if you are in man coverage. So they did this drill. Usually the offense had a completion, but there was one situation where I know that they had a breakdown in coverage and there was a wide open route. We'll get to that in a second. Also, Amani, the first rep that I had noted down, very good coverage on Tom Kennedy. He's continued to me to have a really just solid camp to this point so far. Every time I see him, it's like he's doing pretty well. Now, he gives up some plays and he makes some plays, but it's just an overall solid camp from Monty. He just seems to be pretty steady for the most part. I think that's the way to put it. He's been steady to this point. Then they had a pass to Johnson, which was incomplete with Bobby Price in coverage. The offense started winning, and they won a lot of this. They had TJ Hockenson coming underneath on like a drag with AJ Parker in coverage that was completed. Here was the bad communication play. I believe it was Chase Lucas. If I have some of these wrong, I apologize, but I believe this was Chase Lucas they had like a breakdown in coverage, a wide open Trinity Benson. So I think those are the things they want to clean up, especially with the young guys. But to be able to somehow try to be still physical off the line, try to bump routes, and you saw what they would do is, like, yeah, you're playing a lot of off coverage and bunch. You're usually giving like 5 yards of separation, right? If you're an outside corner, is they wanted to seemingly get up on them. So as soon as it was snapped, and they would quickly communicate, pass it off, make sure that they knew who they had, and then they would get up on it. They'd jump on the route and try to get physical as much as they could. It seemed like we had a deep pass that was thrown to DJ Chark that was caught on Kirby Joseph. Man, DJ Chark had some big plays today from Jared Goff. If you wanted a reason to say, hey, is the connection there with DJ Chark? Are we starting to see it with him and Goff? Today was the day. Today was the day. There was a clip on Twitter they put out, but we'll come back to that. We'll come back around because I have some more notes. Alexander winning on a slant underneath. Tom Kennedy beating Savion Smith. Then you had a bunch that was caught by St. Brown on A.J. Parker, again, working underneath. Then they had a crosser caught by Khalif Raymond. I believe that was on Will Harris. So again, for the most part, the offense won these. I'm sure I missed a couple in there, but for the most part, the offense won. Now, a couple of notes that I did read with the one-on-ones. Again, I didn't really see these, so I'm going to take the words for it. I think this was actually from Pride of Detroit. I saw this little snippet that they put out, so shout out to them. But they said there was one rep where Devin Funchess absolutely mossed Brady Breeze. All right, Brady Breeze did flash a few times outside of whatever that play was that I didn't see, but apparently he just mossed Brady Breeze. This reminded me completely of some of the red zone touchdowns that he's had in the past with teams like Carolina. The body adjustment, the length, the ability to reach and scoop and catch it with his fingertips. That's where he made some plays in the red zone. And we absolutely have to show this. Chase Lucas just has the quick feet for the slot corner position. You can see him coming to balance here, and then the fluidity to open his hips in the short position. Now, over top, this is a position where maybe he could be beat, but you like the physicalness at the top of the route. Now, you got to be careful with that. Within 5 yards, short yardage, that can be okay. And then to play through the receiver with the inside hand there, that's just really good technique from a guy that's played a lot of football, man. This is why he can play slot. Josh Reynolds beat Amani Oruwariye at the top of the route. Khalif Raymond continued his dominance. And, I mean, that's no surprise, because last year, anytime they went one-on-ones, you just had to look at Khalif Raymond and you usually see dominance in these drills. It's just a pain trying to keep in front of him, and that's why Khalil Pimpleton has flashed. But I think Khalif's got even a little bit more because he's a little bit bigger of a target. But my goodness, just trying to stay in front of that guy it's tough. He was just a nightmare last year to stay in front of, and that continues to be the case. He continues to make big receptions every time they go through 11-on-11s. He's making plays, getting 15-plus yard completions over the middle, crossing, all these kind of things. So Khalif Raymond continues to be another one of those steady pieces for the Lions. I like Khalif Raymond, definitely a fan, and we know that, again, he's our punt returner as well. They went to the one-on-one blocking drill, which is you're just asking for people to get after. You're asking for a little bit of scuffles here. You're asking for the intensity to just go crazy as soon as you do this drill, which is, again, where the offensive player is trying to block the returner who is standing behind him like 3, 4, 5 yards, and then the defensive player is trying to get by him and tap the returner. This is where things get pretty darn physical. And we talked about it last time. It started with Jamal Williams just setting the tone and just, bam, lighting up Alex Anzalone. This is the drill that kind of gets things flaring a little bit. It started off with Anthony Pittman, who I thought just absolutely locked up Kirby Joseph. I haven't seen Kirby Joseph have much success in these drills specifically, which I guess is kind of understandable. I just haven't seen him have a lot of success here either. You had Chris Board, who had a good rep, I would say a solid rep against Derek Barnes. That's not an easy matchup, so they definitely, because I feel like for the most part, Chris Board has been dominating special teams drills. So when you put him on Derek Barnes, it's a little bit more of a challenge, but I would say for the most part, he still did a pretty good job. He didn't allow an immediate win. There was a lot of pops between the two because Barnes is a problem coming downhill. Oh, Godwin absolutely win the drill against Jermar Jefferson. He just latched up Jermar Jefferson. I was pretty impressed there to see that with Godwin, the two running backs battling it out. And they got really everybody involved in this drill. Savion went down. He was going against Chase Lucas. Both the guys actually went down to the ground. Will Harris beat Kirby Joseph again there. So I just haven't seen a lot of wins here, and that might be an area where Kirby really has to show something that he can be an impact player on special teams. But this may not be the way to do that. Jay Parker with the solid rep, and he's been mixing in a little bit of reps on punt team and things like that through practice. So he's a guy to keep an eye on. Juju Hughes, he absolutely locked up Brady Breeze. I believe it was Juju Hughes. Sometimes I mess that guy up. The number still throws me off to 33, but I believe he absolutely locked up Brady Breeze going through this drill and had one of the better reps through the entire drill. Then you had Godwin again, who showed nice recovery ability because it looked like he was initially going to lose the battle to Tom Kennedy. Tom Kennedy's not the quickest receiver, and he was able to recover and get back in position to pick up Tom Kennedy. Then I had Johnson beating Khalil Pimpleton. Pimpleton ended up on the ground. He fell over. I didn't see exactly how he fell over. There was a coach in the way, but you saw him kind of like slap the ground after the end of the play. He's a competitor, but obviously he is completely outsized when it comes to this drill. Here was probably the best one was Deshaun Elliott. I thought this was DJ Chark. So if it was DJ Chark, okay, my bad, because I asked, hey, who was that guy? And the people said, hey, that was Deshaun Elliott. I thought it was Chark. So I'm going to go with it was Deshaun Elliott. I think that makes sense. Deshaun Elliott and TJ Hockenson. Again, I think we've seen Hockenson in drills like this, and Hockenson's not really dominant in these drills, understandably so. But Elliott probably had the cleanest rep. He actually got some praise after this one because he just walled up TJ Hockenson, kind of sat himself down after the initial contact, got underneath the pads, and just kind of lifted it up. And it was like, ooh, that was clean. That was probably the cleanest rep. Yeah, there's no holding there. It was super clean. Just kind of stood him up. Devin Funchess down for a win, beating Derek Deese Jr., and that's going to be important for him to win these if he wants to find any way on the team. He needs to find some sort of way to break into special teams because right now it doesn't seem like he's in that category. Elkin Rodriguez lit up Justin Jackson, and I think that's a better rep than what we saw the last time they went through this. Malcolm actually got kind of stood up a little bit the last time they went through it, but this time he had the win. Justin Jackson's definitely not the biggest guy, so Malcolm clearly has he's got a little bit of a size advantage there. There are usually consistent amount of shots now that we're starting to see. I think specifically with the first team, David Blau had a few opportunities as well, some complete, some not complete. But in 11-on-11s, the Lions are finding usually at least one shot per possession, it seems like at this point. I'm talking about completed. Now, when I say shot, I'm not saying 40-plus yards because, a lot of times they're not lined up where they can actually even do that. But I'm saying about 20-yard completions. Off of play action, a lot of times that happens, but we are seeing those a ton. And there was actually one later that we're going to discuss that was probably the best one of the day. I don't know if there was a clip on Twitter or not. I'll see if there was when I talk about it. But with that being said, the shots are starting to definitely fire off, especially with this first team offense. DJ Chark today, again, it was probably the day that it was like, oh, okay, I see the chemistry, I see the connection, I see how this is going to work over top. I see how this can be very effective. And they're going to force guys to back up. And if our guys are not prepared for it now, they're going to have to adjust and change for that because at this point they are getting shot plays. So the first example of 11-on-11s that I had notes of, it started off with an Lee McNeil run stop. Lee McNeil definitely made his presence felt today. He had a run stop. He had a sack just by pushing the pocket. He's gotten a little bit of pressure mixed in there now occasionally. Lee McNeil's presence has been felt. You come back with a sack by Charles Harris and Julian Okwara. They put Aiden Hutchinson at the 3 tech that time, lining outside shoulder of a guard, so letting him work in the interior. Big V actually credited Aiden Hutchinson after practice today, saying, he's a little twitchy. I can't just set for a bull rush, so it's fun because, I can't just set and sit for a bull rush against him. I have to be prepared that he could go both ways. The flip side, where sometimes Hutch gets locked up. You saw one of the clips today where Hutch was just walled and locked up by Jonah Jackson. That's a good problem to have. As I said, it's going to force Aiden Hutchinson to be much more clean with his moves, right? You cannot be in a position where, well, you had this probably go wrong, but somehow you're still able to do it because you're just too athletic or you're too agile for everybody. He is extremely agile. But for the most part, you're going to be challenged, and it's going to make you really clean up these reps. And he's getting a lot of them, I should say. He's getting a lot of top team reps, a lot of reps in general at different spots. They're always moving him around from edge inside to 3 tech. That came back, though, and they had a successful play over the middle to TJ Hockenson. A lot of middle attacks that we have been seeing. You've seen occasional sideline hitters, but usually they cross the middle to get there. You're seeing a lot of attacking the middle of the field of this defense. Again, I think partially the defense is being very aggressive in play action. That has been a spot that they've been able to hit. I would have to really see replays to know exactly why the Lions have been finding success there. Usually it's coming in front of the tight ends, so that could also be part of, the respect for the over-the-top play if you're running guys off deep. TJ Hockenson over the middle, who had a nice completion. Tracy Walker came down, looked like he would have missed the tackle, and it picked up some extra yards for TJ Hockenson. Also, I did notice Mike Hughes getting some reps with the 2s. It was great to see that. I've been wondering a little bit what they're doing with him. He is playing a lot on the outside. Meanwhile, Chase Lucas is basically the backup slot seemingly at this point. He's mixing in for his team now. So these young guys are slowly working their way up. So the Kirby Josephs, the Chase Lucases, they're working their way up. James Houston starting to get involved. I'm starting to notice him starting today, really. But Mike Hughes getting some rest with the 2s. He had a really nice play. We'll get to that one. Then Swift, I noticed he just popped a run. He's usually good for one of these, especially early in practice. One good pop of a run where, he explodes through, and this is what happened here. He exploded through the left side of the play, and then, he kind of got tripped up, maybe when he picked up more yards than he did, and he just kind of lets out his frustration. Everybody can hear him in the crowd. But with that said, he just pops. He just gives you a pop, right? So we're consistently seeing that from DeAndre Swift. He just knows there's a little bit left on the bone. There's a little bit of meat on the bone that he could potentially pick up to take that thing to the house. And that's what he's looking for sure. They came back with a deep crosser play action to Amon-Ra St. Brown. Lions offense and defense probably could use work here. The offense wants to do this. The defense should improve based on last year from this, where you're in these situations where you have to pass off, you're in man coverage, the communication on the fly. Lions offense does a good job. They get Tracy Walker on St. Brown. Goff identifies quickly, and we've seen a lot of this. They utilize motion a ton usually to do this, and you take that matchup all day long as he tries to undercut, but he's unable to make the play crossing the field. The Lions defense needs improvement here. I do like seeing Aiden Hutchinson, however, at the top of the screen as it's rolling away from him, because teams will do that. They did that to him in college. How quickly he still won and stuck with this, because if for whatever reason that route is not there, this is going to turn into a sack most likely. Again, caught on Tracy Walker. They've been hitting a lot of these deep middle passes from what I've seen so far. Coming back deep middle, Trinity Benson caught on Mark Gilbert. Now, this was the second unit, and David Blau was the number 2. He worked with the number 2s today. David Blau found somewhat of a rhythm, and I think a big part of that was Trinity Benson. Now, I want to hop back in here because I do agree with my point of Trinity Benson here. I think also a huge part of it that we're going to bring up multiple times is that Khalif Raymond mixed a lot with the 2s. And when Khalif mixed with the 2s, I think it helped open up Trinity Benson, and Khalif was extremely reliable, and he won a lot. So I'm going to say more so Khalif getting reps with the 2s, you felt the impact, but at the same time, yes, Trinity Benson did help a ton. Consistently a big-time threat over top. Consistently, and it's to the point now where David Blau's just trusting to put it up there and give him a chance. And one play was probably one of the best catches, if not the best catch of the day up the sideline by Trinity Benson. And then he comes back and drops the receiver screen. You're like, how did that just happen? But with that said, he has been a huge part. And David Ball's finding some sort of rhythm within this offense, and he started to click a little bit today. You could see some frustration with Boyle, but he still made a couple plays. We'll get to that. But with that said, that was a deep play on Mark Gilbert. And Mark Gilbert was cool too, because I thought, there he got beat, but he was in tight contested coverage. And a couple of reps later, I'm noticing, I'm like, man, Mark Gilbert's in great position. Oh, that's great coverage, locking him up. And then as soon as I say that, he gets beat. But we'll talk about it. With that said, though, come back with a Jayshon Cornell run stop. This led to kind of your first little altercation. This happened between Austin Bryant and Dan Skipper. Now, Austin Bryant flashed today as well. We're going to get to that. But I guess it happened between them. I know Easy told me there was like a little cheap shot that was thrown in there by Austin Bryant. So it kind of led to a scuffle to the point where you see Logan Stenberg throw somebody's helmet. And I'm like, okay, what the heck just happened? Turns out he threw Austin Bryant's helmet. Breeze, you start to see get into it. He was kind of like running over there to I don't know what the heck was going on. He was like running over there at Logan Stenberg, but it got chippy for a second there, and a couple guys got involved. You could kind of see the swarm, and then it died off very quickly. With that said, let's stay on path of taking shots down the field. We had David Blau to Khalif Raymond. That's probably also another big part of the rhythm that they found today, was getting him involved. So this was a drop by Khalif Raymond. It was a little bit in front of him. It was kind of like a diving grab that as he hit the ground, not being hit by a defender, but as he hit the ground, the ball bounced out. But he got behind the secondary. He got behind the defense, had a chance at it. It was definitely a catchable ball, but it was not going to be an easy catch. It wasn't a catch that you would consistently expect him to come up with. And that one was on Kirby Joseph over top. I say that because I don't know, how exactly it got to that stage. Everything's just happening way too fast, but I can tell you that it was in the area of Kirby Joseph when the catch was trying to be made. Then you had a fantastic pocket the very next rep. Josh Johnson, while Mark Gilbert was all over him in coverage, an incomplete pass. So that was one of those good reps. Mark Gilbert is very sticky in coverage to this point. We know Dan Campbell credited up here with Mark Gilbert. He seems to be very sticky in coverage, where even when he does give up a completion, he's not like 4 yards off the play. Mark Gilbert flashed. This is the first time I really noticed that. I know he's been getting good reps and mixing in. I noticed Davion Smith. I've noticed Chase Lucas, but today was the first day I really legitimately noticed Mark Gilbert making some plays out there and just being super sticky in coverage. Very small sample size last year, but in that small sample size, he actually played pretty darn well for us last year, specifically in that Pittsburgh Steelers game when he had to come in towards the end. Then it was Jared Davis and Malcolm Rodriguez doing some reps together here, and it started off with a bang as they had an absolute run stuff by Malcolm Rodriguez, like right up the right guard, maybe like in the B-C gap on the right side of the field. Malcolm Rodriguez got right into that gap right off the snap, bam, and he was making a play on the football, and it drew some, cheers from the coaches, hyping him up a little bit. Meanwhile, opposite, you saw Jared Davis fill his lane, and my goodness, he hit the offensive lineman like a truck. He didn't run him over or anything, but you want to talk about putting pads on and how you can feel a difference. Davis is probably the perfect example of that, because Davis's skill set, the way that he just hits and attacks is unreal, and you're going to feel that as soon as you put the pads on. You felt that. I know the left guard, I think it was left guard that he hit. It was just like boom, and it's just It was just like I shocked him right in his chest. Meanwhile, Mug Rodriguez in the opposite gap filled his lane very cleanly. Now, it is difficult to see a lot from this angle, but watch how he jumps into his gap on the offensive line. Look at the patience, how low he is, the good control, shuffles and slides out into the other gap that's open as he just sees the running back cut outside, gets in the lane, and then blows it up. Then you come back with a sack, and this was a play-action play. They didn't actually get it off. We have seen a pretty good amount of sacks on play-action as well, which is also very important to, as a defensive line, being able to transition from, okay, playing the run to getting after the quarterback. I did notice, again, John Kaminsky was in the backfield. I can't say he got the sack there, but I noticed, again, he was in the backfield, and that just consistently seems to be a thing. But I can tell you this, Bruce Hector then lit up the next play. Bruce Hector, I know I definitely should have brought this guy up in the past. I don't know if I had any specific examples to point to, but I've definitely noticed Bruce Hector because there's been multiple times throughout camp where they give you this little roster card, and I don't really need it, but I see this guy, 92, it always pops in my head, Demetrius Taylor. I'm like, that's not Demetrius Taylor. There's like 62. That's not him. Who is that? Takes me a second. Then I look, and I'm like, Bruce Hector. I've done it that a few times, and today, his tackle for loss was so quick, I was like, okay, I didn't even see what happened. I just put the quick clip up on Twitter. He was back there like this, and it was like, oh, okay, no shot, just shut down the run. So that was one of the flash plays from Bruce Hector. Shout out to him. But Bruce Hector has been a pretty big part of the interior defensive line, rotating with the backups right now. He's a guy to keep an eye on because, you know, we're talking about who's behind Ali McNeil, and Bruce Hector isn't like the ideal size, but he has been flashing in the interior as well as John Kaminsky. Those are two guys that I've noticed when they've been working. And then it was an outside run by Justin Jackson where he picked up a few yards. All right, so that's kind of the first set that I had of 11 on 11 notes on. Now, back to the set of 11 on 11, it's kind of getting right back to it here, like a little intermission. We're right back to it. It was Amani and St. Brown who then got after it. And this came on a wide receiver screen that was absolutely tore up. It was blown up. They had no shot. Probably maybe gained a yard or something. There was nothing there. The pass was kind of low, so he had to kind of scoop it, but there was nothing on the play. And that led to Amani and St. Brown getting after it just a little bit. You kind of see him like rolling on the ground, you know, through the tackle. And St. Brown was a little bit frustrated. And I guess he came back a little bit later, made a play, and then punted the football. So that's just, he wears his heart on his sleeve, man. And the thing is, if you're going to battle with him, you're going to get into it. I like this, though. I do like this, and I want to see Amani bring that, man, because I know Amani will bring it. He plays with a lot of self-confidence, and I think what's important is he needs to keep that self-confidence. When he was at his best last year against Justin Jefferson, he was confident. He didn't lose that. You know, I felt like there were times where he didn't always show that swagginess. You know, when he would give up a couple of plays, and he started kind of lost it. But when he gets in it, when he competes, when he gets after it, and he's gonna, you know, kind of show you, like when he beats you on a rep and stand there and, you know, just kind of talk back to you, I think that's when Amani can be a problem. He had this quick hitter to Amon-Ra St. Brown, and I got to believe that there was some sort of communication pre-snap on this play because it was a huge like touchdown play, just all run after the catch, and just a very quick hitter. Now, I wish I had like some sort of photographic memory where I was like, yeah, I remember because this guy did this and he did that. I don't exactly remember what happened up front, but I got to believe it was maybe a situation where Jared Goff probably saw that, hey, there could be some pressure. There's probably going to be nobody over the middle if these guys come on the blitz. A.J. Parker's sitting outside leverage. That's going to be open. So I'm not sure if there was that pre-snap communication. It kind of made you think of like a Devontae Adams, Aaron Rodgers situation where they kind of just make a pre-snap check. We saw it against us last year, and immediately the ball is going there. Well, in this situation, it could have been simple as he has a route over the middle, and it could just be his hot read, right? It's probably a hot where, hey, they blitz, get over the middle, and that's going to be wide open. And that's exactly what it is because for whatever reason, the middle was wide open. Immediately took the snap, flipped it right to him, and he was just took off. And it was like there's no one there on defense. Just absolutely nobody there. So I don't remember if he actually scored a touchdown or not, but he had a huge game. They came back with a short run. Then you had your deep corner completion on a play action from Jared Goff beating Amani. And this was kind of like your classic Goff to Josh Reynolds play action deep out route where he kind of just pushes upfield, pushes towards the safety, pushes towards the hashes, and then all of a sudden he cuts it and breaks it back outside towards the sideline. And this was on Amani, which can happen to him, playing some outside leverage it looked like, and he beat him right on the sideline with his play action shot. If you think back to Denver, that it looked like a play like that. It looked like that play against Denver. And we saw that a lot. Teams ran a lot of cover 3 against stuff, a lot of single eye safety, and this was a matchup that Goff loved. So definitely a couple things to take a look at here. First thing being that you can see at the top, it looks like Anthony Pittman here is winning this rep against Brock Wright, forcing the step up in the pocket. Brockers has a little bit of push in the interior, and see Hutchinson coming around the edge with that spin move, but it's just a little bit late in the play. With that said, though, again, you see Amani a little bit on outside leverage. Ball is out. I can't tell if he's already turned or not, but Man, that just takes you back to the season. That's beautiful. Whether that was a deep corner route or a deep out route, he loved that one-on-one. And I think a lot of times we get stuck on, well, the quarterback's got to throw before he turns and this and that. But at the same time, that connection has to be there to trust to put it there, because not only do you have to trust that, yeah, he can go make the grab and that he can knock it down and make the play on the football, I'm going to trust to put the ball out. Of course, pass protection plays into that as well. We also have to trust he's going to be there. When is he going to be there, right? Because I have to understand that timing. That chemistry has to be very strong to make passes like that. And I can't tell you that he necessarily threw it way before the guy turned, but I can say that he put it on him on the sideline, created a lot of space between him and Amani, picked up a couple of extra yards after the catch, but it just looked like one of those classic play-action shot plays. And with that said, Aiden Hutchinson, I guess, had a really nice rep on the interior in terms of he had a very quick swim move, but the ball was out so darn fast, and maybe that was part of the reason he just put it on Josh Reynolds deep down the field on the sideline. Clean. Very clean, and we've seen that going back to last year. Then we go to David Blau. Now, David Blau, again, was working with the second unit, and David Blau did find some success here. He found somewhat of a rhythm. It all wasn't perfect. It wasn't as good as the first unit offensively, but there was a little bit of a rhythm, man. There was some confidence. There was some swag when he was throwing that football. He started off with a bang through this 11-on-11 work. Absolute missile that he threw to Tom Kennedy over the middle of the field. I mean, it wasn't like the hardest pass I've ever seen, but for David Blau, he threw kind of a rope in there. Now, I wish I could see this play again just to see where, did he throw this by a linebacker's ear? Because there looked like a lot of congestion when he threw this. I just couldn't tell if there was actually anybody, behind or in front, because the depth perception was off. But with that being said, absolutely rifled a deep in pass to Tom Kennedy, put it right on him over the middle of the field. Looked like in traffic to get the thing started. And I was like, man, that's a nice window throw. It looked like the Lions were in some sort of zone coverage because Okudah at this point was repping with the twos. They were mixing that. They've always been mixing that. Today, a lot more of Okudah with the twos. He did mix in with the ones a little bit. But it looked like some sort of zone coverage where he was just kind of playing outside. So I think he just rifled that thing between the zone coverage. But I don't know for sure. Either way, it was a good way to get it started. Then you come back with Trinity Benson dropping a screen just right off his chest. Just hit his chest before it hit his hands. Then an incomplete pass left. And this is where I was like, oh, man, hey, look at the coverage. Like Mike Hughes making some plays, playing good tight coverage. Mark Gilbert, I'm hyping him up. I'm telling people. Very next play, boom, Trinity Bennett says, forget that, man. I'm tired of dropping passes. Right over the top, vertical route, right down the sideline. Mark Gilbert in contested coverage. Didn't really make a play on the football, right? Didn't make contact on the ball, but it was contested. He got his arm in there. This is not an easy catch, and it was a good throw from David Blau to give him a chance. It wasn't like a dot where he could catch and run, but it was a good throw, and he put it on him. And, man, tight contested coverage catch for Trinity Benson right on the sideline. He gave a little celebration after that. That pass catch was pretty, man. That was a big-time play. So that was cool to see. And, again, if he can find some way to break into special teams, because we're hearing he's kind of like kick returner 2 right now, we'll have to see what happens with Godwin. But if the Lions could trust him to do that, we know it's not going to be easy for make team, but if Cephas was back and healthy and he's not put on a list to begin the year, it's going to be very difficult for him to fight his way onto the roster. Of course, if he's not, I feel that Trinity Benson probably has the leg up right now with Pimpleton a little bit behind him. But plays like this are big time, but there needs to be that consistency, man. The drops. You can't have the drops, man. We got to see less drops. A Jared Davis blitz that forced a rollout, and then Austin Bryant was just kind of sitting in the flat, which we saw him do a lot back at Clemson, some of those like very underneath drops. He was sitting in a flat, and originally he was lined up at DN, dropped to the flat, and it looked like they blitzed Jared Davis, and he at least forced the pressure outside, and Austin Bryant just stood there waiting for him. This was Tim Boyle at quarterback at this time. Came back with a deep post over top, threw it to Nolan Given, and that pass fell incomplete. This was Mike Hughes in tight coverage, but really never had a shot. It wasn't catchable. He threw it over his head by about 5 to 10 yards. Part of this is who's also out there. I mean, throwing this kind of route to Nolan Given, he didn't really have any sort of separation, but it fell incomplete. And Tim Boyle just showed some frustration. But again, he kind of bounced back a little bit later. We're going to get to that. But I did see Mark Brunell kind of get in the face of Tim Boyle. I don't think it was like an egregious or like a bad way, but he was talking to him. I don't know if he was hyping up. I don't know what he was saying to him. But it started off high-pitched, or not high-pitched, but kind of loud, and then it kind of dialed down. But he was talking, standing there as all three quarterbacks were stretching out to Tim Boyle specifically. Back to David Blau. You had David Blau step up to avoid Savion Smith, the cornerback blitz. This is finding a rhythm. When you avoid a cornerback blitz and he's not standing like a statue, like, oh gosh, what just happened? That's when he's starting to find a rhythm. Stepped up in the pocket, avoided the blitz. Then you had a Khalil Pimpleton catch. Now back to 7-on-7. Start off with Jared Goff. Now the first pass was late. The Lions did put the clip on Twitter. there's no pressure in 7-on-7s except for the one, guy, which I think is it's timed, and then he can chase the quarterback. And it was a little bit late in the play, but he fired into the back of the end zone to DJ Chark, and he just went up, boom, toe tap. I saw by the replay that he wasn't actually that close to the sideline. But again, this was DJ Chark trusting to go up in the end zone, and it was really, to me, it was inspiring because to have that trust late in the play to put it up, I only saw that a few times last year, and usually it came on design. Like you think about Minnesota week 5, we threw that 2-point conversion to Hodge, rolls back, drifting back, fires it up there, puts it up to Daryl Hodge, great play, drag in the back of the middle, crossing back the middle. But too late in the play, put that up. I mean, think about Denver for a second, where we were at with our receivers and what our play was. Right, we had pressure, Jared Goff drifts back and throws it up to Shane Zylstra, and it was like, what the heck was that? This was cool because he rolled left, and he put it up to DJ Chark, and this was not his route. It wasn't like this was on timing, and it was like, that's where he's supposed to be. Nah, he just kind of got off Amani at the last second and went up and high pointed it. That was awesome to see. It was awesome to see him complete that type of pass. It made me very excited, that's for sure. And I had AJ Parker listed for a pass breakup. They passed off the route cleanly, broke up the pass on Amon-Ra St. Brown. Moving on to David Blau. David Blau threw an absolute dime. Probably David Blau's best pass, if not for that rifle pass. Man, he laid some dots today. I'll say that. This pass was pretty. Now, I would say this is his best pass, but there was a pretty messed up matchup. Not sure how Anthony Pittman got on Khalif Raymond. I don't know what the heck was happening there, but for some reason, Anthony Pittman was trailing Khalif Raymond. Again, I don't know why, but with that said, he ran vertical up the sideline, and he put it right between Anthony Pittman, who was clearly like a yard or two at least behind him, and between the safety, dropped it right in the bucket. I was like, okay. Now, it wasn't like a lob, but it was, it was a little bit more of like a bullet pass. And he put it on him. I was like, okay, David Blau. You can see, and we know this, is weapons can obviously change the rhythm and change the confidence and the comfortability within a unit. And with the third unit, we've seen a lot of inconsistency to this point, no matter who's been the quarterback. The backups, the backup units seem to have not as much consistency. Khalif taking rests with the twos has seemed to just change things. I mean, that's what I'm noticing. It's like, dude, things are just changing. And I think that's a good look for Khalif because they're like, oh, this guy is big time for them. Trinity Benson now was flashing occasionally. Tom Kennedy, give him all the credit, give him all the flowers, but Khalif Raymond is changing things, seemingly working a little bit with the second team as well. It just shows kind of the impact you can have when you trust a receiver, and this guy gets open. Khalif just gets open, and there was a lot of plays last year where he was open. We weren't able to get him the football. So he gets open. We know that. You just got to be able to put it on him at that point, have the protection, all of those things to make that happen. He had an incomplete pass and then fouled that up with an interception. I thought this was Chase Lucas. Turns out, I guess it was Iffy. He talked about it after practice. Iffy drifted back into coverage, sitting in zone coverage, and he picked off a pass. He said there was a dig behind him. This was a red zone drill, so he's like at the 10-yard line. He kind of drifted back into zone coverage and just snagged it, just picked it off. That was a cool play. Iffy took it and he ran it, through all the way back through everybody, just very excited. Defense kind of gathered around him a little bit there. That was a cool play for Iffy to see him make a splash play ever since he's been taking all these reps at the safety position. See him kind of drift and splash in zone coverage was awesome. And his length and size makes him a problem. That was kind of something with, and I'm not comparing him to Kyle Hamilton, but Hamilton's size was just dangerous anytime you put it near him because he felt like that could be picked off. And for him, in zone tight situations, tight quarters, red zone, if you have him sitting and squatting in the middle of zone coverage, now he takes up a lot of room with his wingspan. All he has to do is get a hand on it, but in this case, he just picked it off. He's a very fluid mover, so any type of zone drop is going to be light work for him. Funchess then had a touchdown over the middle of the field. It was good to see him get involved a little bit in the action. Bobby Price with the pass breakup. They tried to hit James Mitchell like a curl. The route seemed a little bit late, so it was tough because the timing wasn't like boom, it wasn't money. And coming back to the football, Bobby Price got involved with it. He's long as well, so matching him up on a tight end, he's got a shot because of his length, and he was able to play through James Mitchell and make a play on the football. Tom Kennedy wrap up the drill by catching like a fade, which is completely unexpected. I'm pretty 100% sure that he was definitely out of bounds, but there was still excitement from a lot of people. Of course, the crowd started cheering. He called like a fade route on the side corner of the end zone. Pretty sure he got no feet inbounds, but it was still an impressive catch. And again, David Blau just trusted him to go up there and get it, but it was still a very impressive catch. Tom Kennedy does not, he is another one of those steady guys. He just keeps working. And while I think it's just going to be tough because athletically he's limited, he does not give up, bro. He battles. You just see it. There are certain drills where he just doesn't match up well with guys. There just doesn't. He doesn't match up well. He's not going to give you the most problems one-on-one. He doesn't match up well in special teams drills. It's hard to find a spot for him. Last year, it was like, man, where do we find him on special teams? Because to make the roster, you have to at least give us something on special teams. And they still end up making the team because Perriman was just struggled in preseason. But Tom Kennedy is consistently steady, just battling and making plays. And that takes us to kind of the final notes that I have with these 11-on-11s. They went to like a first unit mix. They mixed the guys in and out here, say different pieces in. Start off with a false start. We need to clean those up. And came back with a nice little pitch. I love these, where they kind of fake it and then pitch it out. Pitched it out to DeAndre Swift. Okuda was out there, kind of made a miss, picked up about 5 or 6 yards on the play. Then was Alex Anzalone in coverage, who was beat right up the middle of the field, like right on the right hash, covering DeAndre Swift, like right up the seam there, right out of the backfield. Then they came back to Jamal Williams for about a 5-yard run. Came to TJ Hawkinson, catch on Amani Oruwariye, but that said, the play was late. So again, I just note that just because it takes a little bit to get the ball out. It was Mike Hughes, who's made the best play of camp I've seen him make. And you could see it develop. So they were like within the 5, at least about the 5-yard line. And they did one of their rollouts empty. They roll it out, and they have a lot of routes going one way. A lot of times they'll have something coming back off, deep in the end zone from the opposite side. Some of them will drag across late. Well, they covered it well, and you saw he was literally step in front of Jamal Williams on his out route, and the Lions cornerbacks practice this. So if you see their individuals, they practice stepping in front of these routes in these situations because it's a short situation. You're not usually going to break outside and cut back. Like, you're not doing all these things because it's such a short, condensed area. Plus, when you roll out, you can't have these long-winded routes unless it's coming from the backside. So he runs this little out, like little, underneath cut, and Mike Hughes just steps in front of it, breaks up the pass. Did not pick it, but he broke it up. Probably the best play I've seen from him just in terms of anticipation from Mike Hughes. Then you had Jared Goff have the play probably of the day, not because it was the best play, but probably because it was like, holy cow, did Jared Goff just do that? Like, I just didn't expect it. I probably would have guessed that he could do it, but I didn't expect it. And I did not see him do anything like this last year. Talk about confidence. Because when you're in the moment, if you know, when you're in the moment, man, you're just feeling it. The energy's there. It's the adrenaline. You can jump a little bit higher. You can throw it a little bit further. You can move a little bit better. I mean, you're just rolling. And that's what this was. They work on the zone read a lot. The last time I remember him taking off on a zone read, we've seen him scramble, which, by the way, we'll come back. He had a giant scramble. I'm like, dude, who is this guy? But zone read week 2, if you remember Green Bay early in the season, there was some confidence there, and the Lions were rolling offensively in the first half. Remember, he pulled it down and took off and picked up like a first down, something like that. Pulled it down, took off, wide open, scored a touchdown, and he did, if you remember, he did a little finger roll at Kansas City. Nah, he changed it. He upped his game. He jammed that thing. I was like, okay. Hey, no one expected that. No one anticipated that right in front of everybody because they were doing it like right into the bleachers. So everybody went crazy. I mean, that was awesome. I did not anticipate that. Hey, I get it. The adrenaline's rolling. I'm here for it. Now, second unit, you had Cleve Rain with a 9-yard completion on Kirby Joseph. Nice little curl route. Then it was a rollout, which Austin Bryant batted down. Austin Bryant was one of the standout players of the day. Competing, and he was battling with some guys, and they got into some stuff. But in terms of just consistently flashing with the second unit, it was Austin Bryant. Makes a really strong case for him to make the team, and he has done that for the last couple of practices. But Cleve Raymond, again, with this unit, he was dominant, man. He just stood out. But it was a rollout, batted down by Austin Bryant, who got in his face. Good job by coverage. They forced him to hold it a little bit longer than he probably would have liked to. Then they threw a swing pass to Craig Reynolds. They went to a zone run for Craig Reynolds within the 10-yard line. And the ref said he scored, but I'm not sure if the team wanted to count it, so they kind of like backed him up to like the 1. Ref said he scored, so they put him at the 1, and they ran another play. I guess they probably just wanted to work. They did a rollout play action, and here was one of those situations where it was one of the backside routes kind of late developing. Rolling. They take everything away, and you're looking like, oh, good coverage. And here's Zylstra. Wide open back to the end zone, scores, celebrates. This is where Tim Boyle finally found like some sort of, plays, and it was like, okay, there you go. He needed this big time. And it started off with the corner route that he threw. Was a really well-thrown pass. I think he actually stepped up in the pocket there to avoid a little rush. Well-thrown ball. Put it on Maurice Alexander again, the newcomer. So there he was making a play like a corner route in the end zone. And I think it was Juju Hughes that he scored. Then they came back. Beautifully designed play. Everybody's going this way, and he has a throwback to James Mitchell. He scores. Ended with a rollout sack from Tim Boyle. They had good coverage. I saw John Kaminsky get into the backfield a little bit. I think Josh Woods may have as well, and that ended his drill, and you could see the frustration with Tim Boyle. He had a couple of good plays. The first one was like, yeah, there we go, but you could see he was just frustrated, man. He just kind of threw the ball after the drill. He's just frustrated that that's how it ended. But with that said, it was good to see him get a couple of good reps in there. And then was the final. I know we've been talking a lot, but there's a lot that I want to share with you guys. This was it. The situational drill. All right, here we go. Starting off with Jared Goff. I don't know who this dude is. I don't know who this dude is. Okay, I do know what he's about. But that being said, first rep, Jared Goff takes off, scrambles to the 28-yard line. Now let me put that in perspective. What does that mean? 5-6 yards? No. They started the drill at their own 40, What do I have? They started the drill at their own 41-yard line, and he took it to the opponent's 28-yard line. Scrambled right through the tackles, nothing open deep, everybody's backed up, and he just takes off. I was like, dude, he went like 20 yards on that play. Let me do the math in my head. 10. I mean, he's like 30 yards that play. Just took off. And I was like, oh my gosh, Jared Goff is still running. I'm like, is this real? Is this counting? Is this going to count? And yeah, that's where the ball was spotted. Huge. Now, they were doing this with 31 seconds on the clock. I guess they technically had at least one timeout. That play was awesome to get it started. And then it was 23 seconds. This was Austin Bryant once again. He gets a sack with about 18 seconds left. It was a loss of 7. Against this O-line, that's impressive. And then they had a beautiful... The connection, oh my gosh, we're already talking about Chark and Goff and how they're making big plays. Well, here you go. How about end it with this? Just a rainbow pass right up there to DJ Chark. Diving grab between Tracy Walker and Deshaun Elliott, just like splitting the safeties. And again, the ball was at what it would have been. The ball would have been at the 35-yard line, so it was a 35-yard touchdown. But he was way deep in the pocket, just threw a rainbow pass up there to DJ Chark. Diving underneath it, touchdown. Boom, that was it. So like, after the sack, you know, we've seen the past things go downhill. They didn't settle for a field goal. They went over the top and they scored a touchdown. And then it leaves you to David Blau in his first rep. He took a shot at the end zone again at Trinity Benson, but it was dropped. It was right off his hands, man. David Blau put it in his hands to end the drill on the first play, and he dropped it. It's like, man, Benson, you're getting over top consistently. You just, come on, man, you got to find some consistency there. But he went deep over top. David Blau put it out there, maybe a little bit in front of him, but I think it was Will in coverage at this point because they had Jeff back with the ones, and it was just a bomb, man. He put it on him, but it was incomplete. So then they came back, 27 seconds left. They threw it to Craig Reynolds into the flats. Then it was a 20-yard absolute rifle because, remember, this would have been third down then in this situation. This was a rifle bullet, again, that he threw to Khalif Raymond over the middle of the field, picking up the first down. It was a 20-yard completion, but after that, things went downhill. James Houston forced a holding penalty. You could see him just go to work against the left tackle. You saw the agility. Went to work on the left tackle, forced a holding call. Out of pressure, he beat the left tackle, and he forced them to scramble. Then they came back with a sack. Brady Breeze technically had an interception, but he didn't because it was a sack. And that was by Eric Banks. And they still had 4 seconds, but again, that's where they ended it. So to me, that was like, wait a minute, why'd they end it? Well, I guess they must have just ran out of time. And then he went off and did some like 7-on-7s, you know. Kirby Joseph had a nice pass breakup underneath. They did some 7-7 to work on the opposite field. Pittman had good coverage on Pimpleton. He actually like locked Khalil Pimpleton. I was like, what the heck? He locked the dude up, and he forced David to just hold on to the football. It was impressive underneath. And then that was kind of the notes I got from that. He had like a look-off curl route that he threw. He was like, flat curl, got you. I was like, okay. Blau showing some confidence there. But with that being said, that kind of ended it. A lot of notes, I know. David Blau definitely had a good day, though. He started to find a little bit of a stride. Boyle had some nice reps towards the end there. He hasn't found that rhythm yet. He hasn't been able to find the rhythm with that offense, and we'll see if they keep rotating 2 and 3. They probably will, but Khalif Ray mixing with the 2s was a big difference. Absolutely big difference. Well, I've been focusing a lot on Hutchinson. The last time I did, I was like, bro, Hutchinson's a problem. I literally put that in the title. Today I didn't focus on him as much, so I can't tell you as much about that, but I can tell you that focusing on other things, it was a good day for a lot of guys today, and there's other guys that, you know, need to step up. Austin Bryant was good today, man. He flashed a lot. You had one of the better days of practice. Tried to focus on Jeff, but it's just weird how they rotated and stuff, and you can't always tell what coverage they're in, so it's tough to really nitpick on what Jeff Okudah did in coverage. But I can say the rotations are interesting. Mike seems to be more outside right now. Slot seems to be Chase Lucas mixing in there, and he, you know, continues to look good. But with that said, there's still things that he needs to clean up for sure. He looks like the number 2 slot right now, though, so we'll keep an eye on that. Whenever I get notes of Jeff Okudah, you know I'll share them with you. But until then, let me know your thoughts, comments below. Thank you for watching, and I'm out.